The people of Israel groaned under the weight of Philistine oppression. For 40 years, the Philistines ruled over them with cruelty, seizing their crops, burning their homes, and mocking their God. The Israelites cried out to the Lord for deliverance, their hearts weary with suffering. In the town of Zorah, a barren woman named Hazzelelponi, wife of Manoah, often knelt in prayer. She longed for a child, her heart heavy with sorrow. One evening, as the sky blushed with the fading sun, an angel of the Lord appeared to her, his face shining like lightning, his robes gleaming like fire. "Do not be afraid," the angel said, his voice echoing like thunder. "You will conceive and bear a son. He will be set apart from birth to save Israel from the Philistines. No razor shall touch his head, for he will be a Nazirite, dedicated to God." Hazzelelponi fell to her knees, trembling with awe. Tears streamed down her face as she listened. When the angel departed, she ran to tell her husband. "A man of God came to me," she said, breathless. "His appearance was like an angel of the Lord. He told me we would have a son, a deliverer for Israel." Manoah lifted his hands to heaven. "Lord, please," he prayed, "let the man of God return to teach us how to raise the boy who is to be born." God answered, and the angel returned. Manoah asked the angel for guidance, and the angel replied, "Your wife must do all that I commanded her. She must not eat anything unclean or drink wine, for the child will be a Nazirite, set apart for God from the womb." In time, Hazzelelponi gave birth to a son and named him Samson, meaning like the sun. As he grew, the Spirit of the Lord stirred within him, filling him with unimaginable strength. Yet alongside his strength, a restless fire burned, a wildness that no one could harm. Samson grew into a towering figure, his muscles like iron cords. He wrestled lions and crushed them with his bare hands. He lifted boulders that 10 men together could not move. The people of Israel whispered of him as a living legend, their hope against the Philistines. But Samson's heart was as reckless as it was hasty. Despite his impulsiveness, he fell in love with a kind-hearted Israelite woman named Ada. She was gentle and wise, her voice like a calming breeze. "The Lord has chosen you," she would tell him, touching his face. "He has given you strength to save Israel. But strength without humility is dangerous, my love." Samson loved her fiercely, but his temper often pushed her away. "I don't need lectures," he snapped one evening after she gently advised him to forgive a man who had insulted him. "I need enemies to crush." Ada's eyes filled with tears. "You fight battles with your hands, but the war in your heart is greater," she whispered. "I will pray for you, Samson, even if you never listen." Still, she stayed, her love steadfast even as she mourned the man he could be. One scorching afternoon, Samson wandered near the vineyards of Timnah, his restless spirit driving him further from home. The scent of ripened grapes filled the air as he stripped off his tunic and slipped into the river to cool himself. He swam with powerful strokes, the water rippling around him like it feared his strength. As he climbed onto the riverbank, water streaming down his body, he heard a rustle in the bushes. A low, guttural growl echoed through the trees, sending birds fluttering into the sky. A lion emerged, golden and massive, its muscles rippling beneath its sleek fur. Its eyes burned with wild hunger as it fixed its gaze on Samson. The beast lunged, claws extended, but Samson caught it by the jaws. It thrashed and roared, tearing into his skin, but he didn't flinch. His feet dug into the earth as he wrestled the lion, his fingers digging into its flesh. With a final, thunderous roar, he ripped the creature apart with his bare hands and dropped the lifeless body to the ground. He stood over it, chest heaving, blood dripping from his arms, and wiped the sweat from his brow before walking away without a second glance. Some time later, Samson passed the carcass again. The lion's body had decayed, its bones stark against the earth. But a soft hum caught his attention, the gentle buzzing of bees. He crouched and peered inside the lion's remains, where a swarm of bees had built a hive. The golden honey glistened in the sunlight. Samson reached in, scooping the honey with his bare hands, letting it drip through his fingers. He licked the sweetness from his skin, the taste rich and wild. Gathering as much as he could carry, he brought it back to his parents and Ada, sharing the honey with them. But he never told them where he had found it. Not a word about the lion. Not a word about the fight. Days turned to weeks, and Samson found himself wandering the paths near Timnah once more. It was then he saw her, a Philistine woman named Whoosh. She moved gracefully along the same river where he had slain the lion, her dark hair flowing like silk in the breeze. Her eyes glimmered like jewels, and something fierce stirred in Samson's heart. Despite Ada's steadfast love, despite the weight of his calling, he found himself drawn to Whoosh. The pull was reckless and dangerous, but he couldn't resist it. He watched her from a distance, his heart pounding as he stepped closer. The war within Samson raged louder than ever, a battle between the strength of his body and the weakness of his heart. She was confident and alluring, her laughter like music. His heart pounded with desire. When he returned home, he declared to his parents, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Get her for me as my wife." His parents were horrified. "Is there no woman among your own people?" Manoah asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines?" "She pleases me," Samson insisted, his voice sharp. "Get her for me." Ada, heartbroken, pleaded with him. "Samson, can't you see?" she cried. "The Philistines hate you. They will use this against you. Please don't do this." But Samson would not listen. His passion blinded him, and he married the Philistine woman, unaware that this choice would lead to ruin. At the wedding feast in Timnah, Samson's pride flared. Surrounded by 30 Philistine men, he issued a challenge. "Let me tell you a riddle," he said, a mischievous gleam in his eye. "If you solve it within 7 days, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. But if you can't, you must give me the same." The men smirked and nodded. "Tell us the riddle," they said. Samson grinned. "Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet." The Philistines puzzled over the riddle for days, but could not solve it. Frustrated, they threatened Samson's wife. "Coax your husband into telling you the answer," they warned, "or we will burn you and your father's house." Terrified, the woman wept and clung to Samson. "You hate me," she cried. "You don't love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you won't even tell me the answer." Samson resisted at first, but after days of her pleading, he relented and told her the answer. She immediately told the Philistines. On the 7th day, the Philistines said to Samson, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson's heart burned with fury. "If you had not plowed with my heifer," he growled, "you would not have solved my riddle." In his rage, he went to Ashkelon, killed 30 Philistines, and brought back their clothes to pay his debt. Then he abandoned his wife and returned to his father's house, consumed with humiliation and wrath. After some time, Samson's anger cooled, and he returned to Timnah to reconcile with his wife. But when he arrived, he learned a bitter truth. "I gave her to your best friend," her father said, eyes downcast. "I thought you hated her. I gave her to another man." Samson's heart shattered. Rage surged through him like an unstoppable flood. "This time, I will truly harm the Philistines," he declared. He caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together in pairs, and fastened torches to them. Then he released the foxes into the Philistine fields, setting fire to their grain, vineyards, and olive groves. The Philistines, in retaliation, burned Samson's wife and her family alive. When Samson heard this, he wept bitterly. Yet his grief quickly turned to wrath. "Since you have done this," he said, his voice like thunder, "I will not stop until I have avenged them." He attacked the Philistines with ruthless strength, slaughtering them with his bare hands before retreating to a cave in Etam, alone with his pain. From a distance, Ada watched him, her heart breaking. "Lord," she prayed, "protect him, even as he destroys himself." Samson sat in a cave in Etam, his chest rising and falling like a stormy sea. His body was battered, streaked with dirt and blood, but his spirit burned hotter than ever. The pain of losing his wife and her family twisted inside him like a knife, fueling a fire he couldn't extinguish. Meanwhile, the Philistines gathered an army and marched into Judah, determined to capture the man who had brought them such humiliation. The Israelites, terrified of their oppressors, sent 3,000 men to confront Samson in his hiding place. "Why are you doing this to us?" they pleaded. Don't you know the Philistines rule over us? They'll destroy us all because of you." Samson, his eyes sharp like flint, rose to his feet. "I only did to them what they did to me," he growled. The men of Judah lowered their heads. "We must hand you over to them," they said, their voices trembling, "or they'll kill us all." Samson stepped forward, towering over them. "Swear to me," he said, his voice like thunder, "that you won't kill me yourselves." "We swear," they promised. "We will only tie you up and give you to them." They bound him with new ropes and led him to the rock of Lehi, where the Philistine army waited. As soon as the Philistines saw Samson, their laughter echoed through the valley. "The mighty Samson," they jeered, "brought to us like a chained beast." But then, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon Samson. The ropes snapped like burned threads, falling to the ground. Samson's muscles swelled with divine strength as he searched the ground for a weapon, but there were no swords or spears in sight. Instead, his fingers closed around the smooth, sun-bleached jawbone of a donkey. Samson lifted it high, his voice roaring across the battlefield. "With a donkey's jawbone," he bellowed, "I will make donkeys of you. With a donkey's jawbone, I will strike you down." He charged into the Philistine ranks like a wild tempest, swinging the jawbone with lethal precision. Bones snapped, helmets cracked, and men fell like stalks of wheat under a harvester's blade. The Philistines screamed in terror, but there was no escaping Samson's wrath. By the time the sun dipped low, 1,000 men lay dead around him. Blood soaked the ground, weapons lay scattered, and the once boastful army was reduced to silence. Samson, drenched in sweat and blood, dropped the jawbone and stood amidst the carnage. "With a donkey's jawbone," he whispered, his chest heaving, "I have killed 1,000 men." Exhaustion overwhelmed him, and he collapsed to his knees, lifting his face to the heavens. "Lord," he gasped, "you have given me this victory. But now will you let me die of thirst?" God, ever merciful, split open a hollow place in Lehi, and water gushed out. Samson drank deeply, his strength slowly returning. He wiped his mouth, stood up, and walked away from the battlefield, victorious but utterly alone. From a distance, his Israelite wife, the one who had prayed for him for so many years, watched him disappear over the horizon. Her heart shattered, she whispered through her tears, "You are strong, Samson, but when will you let God make you whole?" And so, Samson walked on, a man blessed by God, yet haunted by his own unyielding heart. Victory never quieted the storm inside Samson. Though he had crushed the Philistines in battle after battle, peace always slipped through his fingers. He roamed through Judah, restless and reckless, his heart a wilderness of grief and rage. At night, he returned to Zorah, but he never stayed long. Ada tried to reach him, her voice soft as she pleaded for him to come home. "You carry the weight of Israel on your shoulders," she whispered, touching his scarred hand. "But you were never meant to carry it alone." Samson pulled away. "I'm not a man, Ada," he muttered. "I'm a weapon." One night, he traveled to Gaza and lay with a prostitute. The Philistines heard he was there and plotted to kill him at dawn. But Samson woke in the middle of the night. Without a word, he tore the city gates from their hinges, hoisted them onto his back, and carried them to the top of Mount Hebron, leaving them as a humiliating warning to his enemies. Ada wept when she heard. "He's not just fighting the Philistines," she whispered to herself. "He's fighting himself." One day, while wandering through the valley of Sorek, Samson met Delilah. She was beautiful, her eyes like polished onyx, her voice like honey. She wrapped herself around his brokenness, filling the void he couldn't bear to face. She stroked his hair as he rested his head in her lap, whispering promises of peace. "Stay with me," she cooed. "Let me be your refuge." Samson, weary and longing for rest, clung to her. Ada, sensing danger, found him in Sorek and begged him to leave Delilah. "Samson, she's a Philistine," Ada cried. "Can't you see what this is?" Samson laughed bitterly. "If the Philistines want me dead, they can try," he said, brushing past her. "No woman can break me." But Delilah smiled in the shadows, knowing she already had. The Philistine rulers came to Delilah with an offer. "Find the source of his strength," they said. "We'll each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." Delilah agreed. That night, as Samson lay in her arms, She traced circles on his chest. "Tell me, my love," she whispered. "What makes you so strong?" Samson grinned. "Bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings," he said, "and I will be as weak as any man." Delilah told the Philistines, and they hid in her chamber. She tied him with bowstrings and called out, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He snapped the bowstrings as if they were threads. The Philistines fled, and Delilah pouted. "You lied to me," she said, her eyes glistening. She tried again and again, tying him with new ropes, weaving his hair into a loom. Each time he broke free, but Delilah persisted, her words like a slow, dripping poison. "If you loved me," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks, "you wouldn't keep secrets from me." Her voice chipped away at him, day after day, until he couldn't bear it anymore. In a moment of vulnerability, he told her the truth. "My strength is in my hair," he said, his voice hollow. "A razor has never touched my head, for I am a Nazirite, dedicated to God." Delilah's eyes gleamed like daggers in the dark. "Thank you, my love," she whispered. The day before his betrayal, Ada risked her life to bring their newborn son to see Samson. She wrapped the baby in soft linen and smuggled him into the Philistine city. When Samson saw the child, he collapsed to his knees, cradling the baby with trembling hands. "My son," he whispered, tears streaking down his face. "I never thought I'd live to see you." Ada placed a worn donkey's jawbone in his hand, the same one he has used to slay 1,000 Philistines. "You are still that man," she said. "You are still our deliverer." Samson clutched the jawbone, his heart aching with hope. "What's his name?" he asked. "Levi," Ada said, smiling through her tears. "It means joined in harmony." For the first time in years, Samson felt peace. He held his son until sunset, unaware that this was the last quiet moment he would ever know. That night, while Samson slept, Delilah gently ran her fingers through his hair. She called for a servant to shave it off, lock by lock. When the last strand fell, she whispered, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." Samson woke and tried to rise, but his strength had vanished. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and dragged him away in chains. Ada and Levi, hiding nearby, watched in horror. Ada covered her baby's mouth to muffle his cries, tears blurring her vision as the man she loved disappeared into the darkness. In the prison of Gaza, Samson wasted away. His muscles shrank, his body weakened, but the sharpest pain lived in his heart. The days in Gaza's prison stretched endlessly for Samson. His fingers traced the cold stone walls, his once mighty body frail and worn. The weight of regret sat heavy on his chest, but the thought of Ada and Levi gave him a fragile hope. One day, Levi snuck into the prison, pressing his tiny hands against the iron bars. His small hands pressed against the iron bars. "Father," Levi whispered, his voice trembling, "I need to tell you something." Samson knelt by the bars, his heart pounding. "What is it, my son?" Levi hesitated, tears streaming down his face. His clothes were torn, and his ribs showed beneath his skin. "Mother, she's been with another man. I saw them. She said she needed help because we don't have food, Father. We haven't eaten in days. She cries all the time, and sometimes we sleep outside because we can't afford firewood to keep warm." Samson's chest tightened, his blind eyes filling with tears. "Go home, Levi," he whispered, voice shaking. "Go home to your mother." When Ada returned to the prison days later, carrying a small bundle of stale bread and threadbare clothes, Samson turned his face away. "Samson," she called softly. "What's wrong?" His jaw clenched. Levi came to me. Ada froze, her breath hitching. She set the food down and rubbed her arms as if trying to ward off a cold. I can explain," she stammered. "Explain." Samson's voice rose, echoing through the prison. "While I rot in chains, you share your heart with another?" Ada's eyes welled up, her face twisting with anguish. "Do you think this is easy for me?" she snapped. "We have nothing, Samson. No food, no money, no one to help us. I beg in the streets. I scrape for scraps just to keep Levi alive. And you left us, Samson. You chose your strength, your battles, your vengeance, and now you're gone." Samson slammed his fist against the wall, his voice raw. "I didn't choose this. I never chose to lose you. Ada wiped her face with her sleeve, her chest heaving. I'm tired, Samson. I'm tired of being alone, of scraping by, of seeing Levi cry every night for a father who can't come home. Thanks for watching. I hope you are enjoying this video. Creating each video takes me a very long time and a lot of energy. From writing the script, carefully selecting and placing images, to editing every detail and finally uploading. It's a whole process done with passion, just for you. If you enjoy the video, you can support me by subscribing, commenting, liking, or sharing. It won't cost you anything. It's completely free. At the end, please score the video from 0 to 10, where 0 is the lowest and 10 is the highest. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you liked, what could be better, and what you think should be added or removed. Your feedback while you watch means the world to me and helps me keep making content you love. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to bring you more great videos soon. I needed someone to help me carry the weight. She broke down, sinking to her knees, clutching her face. I'm not proud of what I did, but I was desperate. I couldn't watch our son starve, Samson. The silence between them burned like fire. Finally, Ada stood, her body trembling. I can't do this, she whispered, her voice breaking. I can't keep tearing myself apart for a man who isn't even there. Samson reached for her through the bars, but his hand only grasped empty air. Ada, he pleaded, his voice cracking. But she was already gone, her footsteps fading into the distance, leaving Samson to crumble in the darkness, clutching his chest as silent sobs shook his body. Later, Samson pleaded with his father and Israel's leaders to care for Ada and their children, bowing his head in bitter regret. As he was the leader of the Israel, they all agreed to take care of them, which was a vow they made while he was in the prison. Later, Ada visited him again, and they reconciled. She visited him again and again, bring him food and new clothes, and become a good companion in his prison. With time, the Philistine gave them time to stay together. Since he was blind, they thought he was now armless. Then Samson knew his wife, Ada, and she became pregnant again. In the final year of Samson's captivity, Ada gave birth to their second son. She brought the baby to the prison, pressing the infant into Samson's arms. The blind warrior wept as he traced the baby's face with his fingers. Elijah, he whispered, kissing the boy's forehead. God is my strength. Tears soaked his cheeks as he clutched his son. I will protect you, Samson vowed, even if it costs me everything. The guard dragged Ada and the children away, but Samson kept whispering his son's name, hope flickering in his shattered heart. Elijah, Elijah, Elijah. The Philistines paraded Samson through the streets of Gaza, his hands bound in chains, his eyes gouged out. The once mighty warrior was now nothing more than a broken trophy, a symbol of their triumph over Israel. They mocked him, their laughter echoing through the streets as they dragged him to the grand temple of Dagon, where they intended to humiliate him before thousands of their people. But what they did not know was that Samson's hair and his strength were slowly beginning to return. Each passing day, the roots of his hair grew back, and with it, the power that once shook the earth itself. His eldest son, Levi, stayed by his side, refusing to abandon his father. He held on to Samson's shackled hands, his young face filled with determination. I will never leave you, father, Levi whispered, his voice steady, despite the terror around them. I will always stand by you, no matter what happens. The Philistine rulers, intoxicated by their apparent victory, gathered in the grand hall of the Temple of Dagon to celebrate their triumph. Music played, laughter filled the air, and sacrifices were made in honor of their gods. They brought Samson before them, setting him at the center of the festivities. But Samson's thoughts were far from the celebration. Kneeling beside his son, he whispered with quiet intensity, Levi, take me to the pillars. Levi's eyes widened. He knew what his father meant. But father, they'll kill you. Take me to them, son. I must do this. With trembling hands, Levi led his blind father toward the massive columns that held up the temple. Samson's mind was focused on the task ahead, praying for strength, but his heart was torn. This would be the final act of his life, but it was also the only chance he had left to redeem himself and save his people. Standing between the two towering pillars, Samson gazed out at the Philistines who jeered and mocked him. The noise was deafening, but Samson's heart was still. He turned to Levi, holding out a trumpet. "Take this," Samson said, his voice shaking. "Go to the highest mountain you can find. Blow this trumpet. Call your mother, your grandfather, and the elders to witness what is about to happen." Levi's eyes filled with tears, his hands trembling as he took the trumpet. "I will, Father. I promise." Samson placed a hand on Levi's shoulder. "You are my strength now. Go quickly." Levi ran, his feet pounding against the temple stone floor, as Samson stood alone in the shadow of the Philistine gods. Samson stood between the pillars, his heart racing as the sound of the trumpet echoed faintly from the distant hills. It was his son, calling for those who would bear witness to his final act. Samson's heart swelled with a mixture of grief and hope. His body was weak, his chains heavy, but his spirit was alive with purpose. "Lord God," Samson prayed, his voice breaking as he spoke the words of his last prayer. "Give me strength once more, just this once, that I may avenge my eyes and deliver Israel from the Philistines." Tears streamed down his face as he called out to the heavens, the echo of the trumpet still ringing in his ears. With a roar of defiance, Samson pushed with every ounce of strength he had left. The temple groaned as the pillars began to crack and shift. The earth trembled beneath him as the massive columns started to collapse. "Let me die with the Philistines," Samson cried as he pushed the pillars apart, his body screaming with the effort. The temple shook violently, and then, with a deafening crash, it collapsed. The ground rumbled as the massive stones and beams of the temple fell, crushing the Philistine rulers and thousands of their people beneath the rubble. Samson, too, was buried under the debris, his life extinguished in the same moment as the enemies of Israel. From the mountain, Levi stood, the trumpet pressed to his lips. As the last of the temple's collapse rumbled through the land, the echo of the trumpet sounded once more. Ada, standing below with her family, felt her heart stop when she heard the trumpet's call. She knew it was the moment she had feared. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed, sobbing for the loss of the man she had loved, the father of her children. "No," she whispered, "not like this." But the sound of the trumpet, the signal of sacrifice, did not fade. It carried through the hills, telling all who heard it that Samson had died for his people. Levi led his family and the elders of Israel to the ruins of the temple. They found Samson's lifeless body buried under the rubble, his hands still gripping the shattered pillars. Clutched in his other hand was the broken jawbone, a symbol of his strength and his past. Ada fell to her knees, weeping for the man who had once been her hero, and for the family they would now have to rebuild without him. "He gave his life for us," she whispered, her voice thick with grief. "He died so that we might live." The people of Israel came together to honor Samson. The elders laid their hands on his sons, blessing them as the next generation of warriors. Samson's body was buried with honor in the land of his forefathers, and his name was etched into the annals of Israel's history. His sacrifice would not be forgotten. Holding baby Elijah in her arms, Ada gathered her children close. She whispered stories of their father's strength, not just of his body, but of his heart. "Your father was strong in ways that no man can measure," she said, her voice full of reverence. "He loved us with all his heart, and he gave everything for our people." Levi, his eyes now full of the same determination that once burned in his father, nodded. "I will carry his name with pride," he said. "I will be strong like him." The elders of Israel gathered around, promising to never forget Samson's sacrifice. The family returned to Israel, carrying Samson's legacy as a reminder of faith, sacrifice, and enduring love. The story of Samson the Strong would live on in the hearts of the people, passed down through generations as a testament to the power of faith, the cost of pride, and the redemption that can be found in sacrifice. Ada, holding Elijah, looked toward the future, knowing that the story of her husband, of the man who had delivered Israel, would never be forgotten. And as they walked back to their homeland, the hills whispered his name. Samson, the strong, the brave, the faithful.